Sulaika, with your experience, we know recent migrants that they're not afraid to go to a police station, first of all, because they have come recently maybe, or their culture does not in a way permit them to do that, and it's not accepted in their culture. They try to solve it. And also an issue would be that they may be forced to be in the relationship because of their children. Probably they want to continue to stay in Australia. But what can we do to help or assist, or what information can you provide to those people who are in that relationship, but it's a very violent relationship?
It's a really good question, Dinesh. With newly arrived migrant with a very lack of understanding or very limited understanding of the Australian laws, and particularly considering what country they come here from, maybe a country that family violence are part and parcel of their life, and they didn't see any difference in their families either. They might believe that it is okay to remain in a relationship. So the main issue could be, there could be two main issues with my experience. One, the lack of knowledge or the laws. The second, their own visa condition. If they are here under a spousal visa, then they do have an understanding that you have to remain in this marriage to get a permanent visa. Otherwise, we have to leave this country.
That is where the dilemma is. But I'll get back to your point one. When you say lack of understanding, it's from probably the both sides. One, the perpetrator or the alleged perpetrator might not understand what is accepted in Australia, or he might have a particular a situation or anger management issues. From the other side, the recent migrant or the spouse or the partner might not have an understanding of what is actually family violence, what is not tolerated in Australia.
That's correct.
Isn't that the point?
Yes, that could be. That's a correct question on that. The issue is settling to the country, I would see as a main thing. It could be both parties has migrated recently, and they both are trying to settle to their new country. So finding a job, sending the children to a school,
it is stressful time as well, isn't it? So people can obviously get into. Before talking about more in relation to the legal aspect of it, what would you give as advice for a person or people or a couple or an individual who comes to you for advice in family violence situation? How could they resolve these problems? What is available in the society?
There are lots of organizations that provide support for newly arrived migrants mainly. So I would consider referring them first for mediation or counseling process, so that where they can freely address their issues, just to see where have they gone wrong and where they should put their brakes or control their temper. If it is a hard process, then they might step out from the counseling process and go for individual other referral paths to help them to be a better person in that particular sense. So that will help the family unit to remain and for them to function as one. Or maybe instead of a couple coming, maybe one party will come and say, look, there was this incident in the house. There was shouting, there was hitting, there was damaging property, there was children crying and shouting. I didn't do anything, but the police came. So maybe the neighbor has called the police, and the police gave me some paper, and here's a copy of the paper. And as a result, they removed my husband or my partner from the house. I want him to come back. So what would we say to a person like that? So one, they are a victim of abuse. Then at the same time of the fear, how am I going to survive now?
It's an interesting but a sad situation for a person to be in a new country as a new migrant. Can I ask, obviously I'll point out what you're explaining is the document that has been given is an intervention order. And so what you're explaining is there's a condition that the alleged perpetrator should not be within a certain distance or should not remain in the same house. So that's again another dilemma. But the immigration laws assist people, and they don't force people to be in an abusive relationship just because family violence happened. How does that work, Sulaika? What are the...
Yes, that's correct. So we could advise them on the conditions and the exemptions to the conditions. So you don't have to remain in a relationship. You can leave the relationship. But then there are some steps that you need to take to show the immigration department that what you are saying is correct. So mainly there's two ways that you can reach this. The one way is to get an intervention order, which we call the judiciary way, and that is enough evidence to show there was family violence in a relationship and you want to leave the relationship but still remain in the country. The second one is you don't want to take the process of going to a court, you are fearful of the whole process, or it could be any reason that you don't want to go to a court or the police to report this matter. Then you take the second option, which we call the non-judiciary process. With that process, it's a little bit of complicated because the Immigration Act states about a competent person. So who is a competent person that you will make a report to? So there's a whole list of people that under that category.
Can you give us an example of some of those
so
people?
There's a doctor, there's a nurse, there's a counselor, so and some other professions as well. What the law says is you need to talk to two people, or you need to report this to two people, two category of people, and therefore if they can provide a support statutory declaration saying this is what you have said, this is what has happened and so on, and these are the medication that I provided. It depends on what violence you have suffered.